A rideshare driver throws the nanny out into the cold rain, but what she says leaves him in shock. The rain hit like a slap when the car door was yanked open and Zoe's arm was dragged out. Her body smacked the cold mud with a dull crack that knocked the air from her chest. "What do you think you're doing to me?" Zoe snapped, angry and in pain, trying to push herself up from the waterlogged ground. "That's where you're staying." "Don't look at me like that. Orders," growled Jonathan, the driver, through clenched teeth. "Orders from who? Have you lost your mind, leaving me out here in the middle of nowhere?" Zoe shot back, her voice tight with disbelief. "I don't owe you an explanation." "Shut up," Jonathan barked, climbing back into the car and slamming the door hard. "I'm going to find out who told you to do this, and you'll pay for every second of this cowardice," Zoe said, her knee burning and her clothes heavy with rain. The engine roared mercilessly in her ear, but Zoe lifted her trembling hand, opened the phone camera, aimed at the taillights, and caught the plate half covered in mud, seconds that felt like a lifetime. The car tore off and vanished into a stripe of darkness, leaving behind the reek of fuel and the sound of rain swallowing everything. Get up now," Zoe murmured to herself, breath short, jaw chattering. She limped, every step stinging her knee, until she reached the overhang of an abandoned warehouse where the wind sliced through like a blade. "No signal." "Of course there's no signal," Zoe muttered, fingers ice cold on her phone. She hugged the device to her chest and listened to the storm pound the rotted roof. When the rain eased, she left her makeshift shelter, followed the drainage ditch carefully, and reached a side road. "Please, stop! Stop! Please!" Zoe called, hand raised as a truck slowed. "What happened to you? You're hurt?" the trucker asked, shocked, already pushing the door open. "A rideshare driver dumped me on the side of the road. I just need a gas station with service," Zoe said, urgency laced with embarrassment. "Hop in." "I'm not leaving you here like this," the trucker said with steady, no-nonsense kindness. "Thank you. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't stopped," Zoe said, voice thick. A few minutes later, they reached a station. Zoe got out, thanked the trucker again, and exhaled in relief. She looked at her phone, now with signal, and felt her heart race at the chance to record every detail. She called another rideshare and waited a few minutes. When the driver arrived, she climbed in fast, still shaking. On the way back, she screenshotted the receipt and saved the route on the map, logging every detail as proof of the night she'd just survived. When she got to her apartment, Zoe shut the door with trembling hands and took a deep breath before letting her body sink into the couch for a few seconds. "First a shower. I need to calm down," she murmured, trying to convince herself she could get her head straight afterward. Hot water stripped off the mud, but not the feeling of someone else's grip on her arm, so she cleaned the cut carefully and breathed again. "Tomorrow, I'm going to the police station to tell them exactly what the driver said and hand over everything I managed to record as evidence," Zoe murmured, steady even as her heart clenched. By dawn, Zoe was already up. She covered the cut on her knee with a bandage, grabbed her phone and notes, and headed straight for the police station. There she reported that the driver had dragged her out of the car, thrown her into the mud, said orders, and fled. Then she handed over the partial plate video and the times she'd written down. She received the police report and walked out with the sense that nothing would change right away. Even so, she pressed the paper to her chest like a shield. She went back home and sat a few minutes, breathing. She knew she was tired and hurt, but she also knew that if she hid now, someone would invent the story for her. So she stood up and decided to go to work. She headed to the building where she worked and came in through the lobby, body still heavy, determined not to be silenced. A few minutes later, Zoe's boss, Blake, showed up, straightening his blazer, worry etched across his face. "My God, what happened to you? Why are you limping? Why do you look so worn out?" Blake asked, genuinely shocked to see her in the lobby. A rideshare driver kicked me out of his car and left me in the mud in the middle of nowhere. I filed a report and brought the report number, Zoe said, head high despite the pain. Blake ran a hand over his face, visibly rattled. I should have thought twice before letting you go back alone at night. I'm sorry. Do you want to take the day off? He asked, guilt plain in his voice. I appreciate it, but I'd rather see Pamela. If I disappear, they'll start making up stories, Zoe answered with calm resolve. At that moment, Melissa, Pamela's stepmother, approached with a tight smile. I heard everything from the kitchen. Maybe it's better to spare yourself. You should get some rest, Melissa suggested in a careful tone that couldn't hide her curiosity. Thank you, Mrs. Melissa, but I'm going to work. Taking care of Pamela does me good, Zoe replied with irreproachable politeness. When she entered the bedroom, Pamela, Blake's daughter, the little girl Zoe cared for every day, ran to her and clung to her like someone who'd found an island in the middle of a storm. Breathe with me, 4 in, 4 out, Zoe coached in a soft voice that hid her own trembling. I can do it, I can do it, Pamela answered, eyes wet, cheek pressed to Zoe's shoulder. Would you like a hot tea? I'll make one right now, Blake offered, emotion he tried to keep quiet but couldn't. I would, thank you, Zoe said with contained gratitude. The day stayed tense, but intact, until nightfall brought a quiet poison. Have you seen this? They're saying a nanny argued with a driver and was invited to get out for aggressive behavior, the building manager warned, alarmed, holding up his phone. I'm looking at it. My night turned upside down, Zoe said, forehead throbbing. Send me everything, every screenshot. I'm going to attach it to the police file today, Zoe said, urgent but organized. A few hours later, back in her apartment, Zoe was in bed when a text from Blake came in. Everything go okay? Do you need anything? Blake asked, short and direct. It did, thank you. Tomorrow I'm filing with the app's safety team and attaching the evidence, Zoe replied immediately. In the morning, she opened the Rideshare's safety channel and reported everything in detail. I can confirm the trip is in your history, but it ended en route and includes the driver's note alleging aggressive behavior by the rider, the agent said, with administrative chill. I was pulled and thrown to the ground. I recorded the plate. It's here. Please attach it, Zoe answered, indignation under control. I'll add everything to the internal case and send a report. Any action against the driver depends on the review. There's no immediate sanction, the agent clarified, predictably formal. Back at the building where she worked, she went straight to the front desk and asked the doorman to check the cameras. Our cameras don't catch the pickup spot on the street, the doorman explained, sincerely regretful. Thanks. I'll check the corners. Someone has an exterior camera, Zoe replied, brisk and concrete. She walked blocks until a camera at an auto shop pointing toward the street looked like a lighthouse. Could you show me the footage from this time? I need to see if a car shows up that put me in danger a few nights ago, Zoe asked, urgent. Look, I don't usually release footage like that, but if it was something serious, you can come to the computer and I'll show you, the shop owner said, still wary, but willing to help. Look, that's the car, parked half an hour earlier. And that person in the light coat. See, they slide an envelope under the window and point to something on the driver's phone, Zoe described, finger on the screen, voice bristling with lucid shock. You can't see a face, just the hand, the owner observed, focused. I need a copy, please, and the timestamp, Zoe requested, all business. I'll burn it for you now. Take it on a flash drive, the owner said, accommodating. Thank you, this is really important, Zoe said, gratitude almost spilling over. That night, she called Blake to the lobby and opened the video like someone opening a wound to prove it existed. See, someone gave instructions before the ride. This isn't a coincidence, Zoe said, voice firm with a hidden tremor. Play it again, please. This is way too serious to be a fluke, Blake said, brow furrowed, jaw tight. The next day, a new rumor started zipping through the building's group chats. A short, badly cropped video was making the rounds. It showed only Zoe hugging Pamela too long in the girls' room. "That nanny doesn't know the line between comfort and intimacy," a neighbor wrote, poisonous tone. "She uses the child's fragility to get too close," another resident added in a short voice note, dripping with suspicion. "They're sharing that clip in all the groups," the building manager said, weighed down by the hurt he was carrying. "I know what night this is. It was her nightmare." "They chopped it up to smear me," Zoe answered, throat tight with outrage. "Management suggests you step back for a few days until everything's clear," the building manager said, visibly uncomfortable. "I'm not going to fight it, but I formally request that Blake ask for access to the full internal camera footage. The system keeps cloud backups, and the support company can recover the originals," Zoe explained with composed defiance. "I'll authorize it right now. No one's leaving you alone in this," Blake said, protective and firm. "Thank you. I only want the full cut, no edits," Zoe replied, voice clean and steady. The tech team came, pulled the history, and produced a sequence that showed what had always been there. Pamela waking up scared and breathless, Zoe wrapping her in a firm hug and guiding her breathing until calm washed back in like a tide obeying the count. "Here's the integrity report. No cuts, no edits," the technician said precisely. "Perfect. I'm going to assemble all of this into a timeline with the other evidence," Zoe planned, energized and orderly. "I want a copy in the building's file to protect you," the building manager proposed, with a sense of fairness. "Please do, if possible. I want to make sure no one twists what happened in this building," Zoe agreed firmly. At day's end, she and Blake sat in front of the screen like people watching a trial that needed to be public. "I understand now why Pamela trusts you so much," Blake admitted, voice heavy with guilt and relief. "I needed you to see it uncut," Zoe said, a tiredness bigger than her body. "I was wrong not to defend you right away. I'm going to push to lift the condo's temporary measure," Blake promised, conviction sincere. "Thank you. I don't want special treatment." "I just want the truth to come out," Zoe said, frank and worn. "Your shift's over. Do you want to ride home?" Blake asked carefully. "I'd rather walk. I need to breathe a little," Zoe answered, honestly tired. "I'll walk with you for safety. No rush," Blake said, quiet respect. Days later, the message from the app was direct, if still cold. "The driver's account has been suspended as a precaution for violating protocol. The case is still under review," the app agent said by phone, voice standardized. "I understand, and the summons has been issued," Zoe answered, holding the line. At the lobby, Jonathan finally showed up without the car to hide behind, eyes twitchy, hands unsure where to be. "I need to talk to you," Jonathan said, voice breaking under pressure. "Say it here in front of the building manager," Zoe warned, anger contained. "I got paid and given instructions to drop you in that place. I don't know who it was. I only remember a hand with a wide ring and a bracelet with a teardrop charm," Jonathan confessed, head down, face burning with shame. "You hurt me. You threw me in the mud." "Why did you do that?" Zoe asked, indignation raw. "I lost my head. I did wrong." "I'll repeat this at the police station," Jonathan said, voice shaking, afraid of his own words. At the station, the clerk's pen scratched the paper with purpose, while Jonathan confessed everything. The statement was attached. He signed without lifting his eyes, and the investigation took shape. The rumors, once bold, began to shrink. In the building, the tone changed. Messages that had attacked Zoe now came hesitantly, as if the neighbors no longer knew what to say. The hallway quiet was torn by the rip of packing tape at the front desk, and the building manager appeared pale, holding a crumpled envelope like a bomb about to go off. "This came to management's mailbox. It's about you," the manager said tensely, holding out the carefully folded paper. Open it in front of me, no run around, Zoe said, tired but with eyes sharp. There's a cash deposit receipt, it's in your name, and the date matches when Jonathan gave his statement, the manager said, stunned. This is a setup. I never made any deposit. That night I was somewhere else, Zoe said, heart racing. If this is real, it looks like you paid the driver to back your story, a resident whispered, nasty and curious. Do not go near her with insinuations. We're going to check, Blake snapped, patience shattered. I need to see that document up close, Zoe said, jaw clenched. Look at the letterhead, the amounts. At first glance, it all looks legit, the manager noted, finger trembling over the paper. This proves nothing. It's a forged piece of paper. I'll show you where I was at that time, Zoe shot back, fury focused. Do you remember where you were that night? Blake asked, anxious and sincere. I was at the front desk collecting bags for the winter donation drive. The doorman logged it in the book, and the cameras had me the whole time, Zoe said, conviction clearing a path. Then we're going right now, the manager said, urgent and resolved. The doorman looked up from the counter when the group arrived and sensed the heavy air in the lobby. I need the visitor log from that night and the lobby camera footage, Zoe requested, clear and firm. Here, we've got your ins and outs logged and the cameras. There, this is the segment. You never leave frame, the doorman explained, meticulous. See, while that deposit supposedly happened, I was right here next to this counter, Zoe said, breath ragged with outrage. We're taking all of this straight to the police, with the envelope document, Blake decided, protective and final. At the station, the paper from the envelope went onto the table, and a forensic document examiner studied every detail through a loop that made time slow down. That bank stamp belongs to a form discontinued months ago. It shouldn't exist on that date. It's a well-made forgery, but it failed here, the examiner pointed out, calm and focused. The envelope was dropped off anonymously. Now the document's origin is an open question, the officer recording the case observed. When they left, the night felt lighter, but the doubt someone had planted still buzzed around the digital corridors like a stubborn mosquito. This dismantles the lie, but I know I need something that doesn't depend only on a lab report, Zoe said, mind already turning. What are you thinking of doing? Blake asked, alert and attentive. I'm going to review the auto shop video frame by frame until I find the missing detail, Zoe answered, laser-focused. At home, the screen became a magnifying glass, and time became a tool. Zoe scrubbed through the video until her eyes hurt, pausing, brightening, boosting contrast, just hunting for facts. Wait, go back a second, she murmured, forehead practically pressed to the monitor. That reflection in the glass, that teardrop charm, I've seen it before, Zoe said, heart racing, doubt pounding. I think I saw someone wearing that charm at the condo event. I need to check the photos. Maybe I'll find the answer, she said, frowning in thought. Days later, in the condo event photos, Zoe found what she was looking for. Between forced smiles and raised glasses, there it was, the bracelet with the teardrop charm, clear under the party lights. I found someone wearing the same charm, but you need to see it in person because you're not going to believe who it is, Zoe said, a cold shiver running up her neck. Tell me, now, Blake demanded, urgency contained. Come to my place. I'll put the photos side by side, Zoe said, firm. A little later in her living room, the silence broke with Blake's shock as he leaned toward the screen like a man staring down a secret that wouldn't go down. It's Melissa, in the photo, with the bracelet and the ring, Blake said, stunned, voice catching like the words hurt to say. I know it's hard. I'm not going to force a conclusion on you. I'm just showing you what I saw, Zoe said, respectful but unflinching. I need to talk to her, Blake said, the kind of decision that makes the floor tremble. Melissa walked in, not knowing the fight was already set. Blake looked at her like a man searching for cracks in a freshly painted wall. I want to understand why your accessories match the person who handed an envelope to the driver who threw Zoe out, Blake said, voice controlled and cold. What exactly are you accusing me of? Being someone who wears common accessories? Melissa sneered, smile stretched thin. I saw the teardrop bracelet and the wide ring in the auto shop clip and in the event photos, Blake said, never raising his voice. This is ridiculous. Half the building wears charms and rings. You're blind because you want to defend the nanny, Melissa shot back, disdain rising. I'm asking for an explanation, Melissa, Blake said, firm and contained. I'll explain after Pamela's party. I'm not ruining today with this paranoia. Melissa dodged calculated haste. After the party, then. But no, I'm going all the way, Blake warned, both a notice and a promise. Do whatever you want. I'm going to get ready for the party, Melissa said, icy. On party day, the room buzzed with voices and expectation. Zoe walked in beside Blake, an authorization from management folded in her pocket and a flash drive that felt heavy. Before the birthday song, I have authorization to present material in my own defense, Zoe announced, voice steady as she faced the same people who'd said too much in the hallways. This isn't the time. It's a party. Melissa tried to cut in, her smile shaking. It's exactly now because the lie spread here, Zoe answered, sharp and clean. Show it all. We need to see, the building manager said with the authority of a man responsible for everyone's roof. The makeshift screen lit up. First came the full bedroom clip, Pamela waking up terrified and struggling to breathe, Zoe holding her in a firm hug and counting until the crying ebbed like a tide obeying the beat. That's what I was doing that night. Nothing beyond care, Zoe said, voice low but sure. Go on, with the app report and the driver's statement about dumping her, Blake directed, focused. The report stamped with date and time appeared, along with a summary of the investigation and the transcript of Jonathan admitting he'd abandoned Zoe and that he'd followed instructions he'd been given. Now the auto shop clip, the building manager requested, the room holding its breath. The image showed the car, the light coat and the hand sliding an envelope under the window, pointing at something on the driver's phone. Reflected in the glass, a bracelet with a teardrop charm and a wide ring, details that snagged the eye. Zoom those reflection frames, please, Blake said, voice like ice. The tech zoomed in, and the hall dropped into a heavy silence. These are the same accessories Melissa wore at the condo event. Put the images side by side so everyone can see, Zoe said, voice firm, gaze steady. It's a coincidence. Anyone could wear something like that, Melissa said, a nervous laugh that didn't land. It can't be a coincidence, Blake said, voice hard. I don't owe an explanation to an audience. This is a humiliation, Melissa snapped, anger rising. You owe one because you tried to destroy my life, Zoe said, voice breaking but unmoving. I never could stand watching you take a place that should be mine, Melissa suddenly shouted, mask slipping. Are you confessing? The building manager asked, shocked. I did it, yes, I sent them. I wanted them to dump you in the middle of nowhere. I wanted them to see you as the problem. You steal everything with that saintly face, Melissa screamed, totally unhinged. Stop! You're crossing every line, Blake said, voice broken by disappointment. I won't let the nanny steal my husband, or the girl prefer you, you fake. Melissa raged, surging like a wave. Do not touch her, Blake warned, urgent, trying to block her. Melissa shoved Zoe to the floor and started hitting her, no break, pouring envy into every slap, while the room split into screams and neighbors ran to pull them apart. Let go! Now! Let go! A building security guard ordered, firm. She stole everything, everything, Melissa sobbed in fury, still straining to reach Zoe. Enough! You're being restrained, A police officer present said. "Don't touch me. I did nothing but tell the truth," Melissa thrashed, clinging to a lie already in pieces. "You just confessed in front of everyone," the building manager reminded her, voice shaking. "I was humiliated. I reacted," Melissa tried, flimsy as tissue. "Cuffs," the officer ordered, restraining Melissa under a forest of stunned stares. "Pamela, breathe with me. 4 in, 4 out," Blake said, his daughter clinging to his neck, her face wet with fright. I'm here," Zoe said, hoarse, getting up with help from 2 neighbors. In the days that followed, the consequences came without fireworks, but with weight, like a heavy door that shuts and doesn't swing back. The driver has been removed from the platform. His access is suspended for a period, and he'll perform community service, the app agent said over the phone, tone by the book. He's also answering for abandonment in an unsafe location and for assault, the investigating officer added clearly. Melissa has been charged with coercion, forgery, and filing a false accusation, reported the building's attorney, now part of the case. She was sentenced to a few years in prison, the building manager confirmed, relief and fatigue mixing. "I failed by not seeing the signs earlier. I accept that publicly," Blake said, voice clean and direct. "I'm keeping Zoe on staff with clear conditions, respect, documented routine, and Pamela's well-being as the absolute priority," Blake added firmly. In the months that followed, life didn't explode into joy, but it realigned, like a spine that slips and then remembers how to hold weight. "Want to take a short walk?" "Pamela's mom will stay with her for an hour," Blake asked gently. "Let's go. Let's just line up our schedules and come back," Zoe answered, honestly calm. "I'm sorry for everything, and thank you for not giving up on the truth," Blake said, voice sincere, gaze steady. "I just took every step the night demanded," Zoe said, steady and soft. Back home, they found Pamela on the rug with a simple drawing that said everything, 3 hands held beneath a clear sky, no letters, no caption, like someone who understands better than adults what needs to remain. "Do you think this is fair?" Pamela asked, pointing at the drawing. "I think it's fair, and I think it's beautiful," Zoe said with a warmed voice. Said Zoe, moved. "I think so too, and I'm going to do the right thing every day," Blake said with clear commitment, said Blake with conviction. Nothing erased the mud from that night, but now everything had an explanation, a reason and a consequence. The driver punished, the stepmother sentenced to a few years in prison, and a family learning, step by step, not to repeat violence hidden behind orders. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, give it a like, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. See you in the next story.